Hi there, everyone. My name is Ken Rakowski, and we are doing a little behind the stage where you get to meet us being the panelists on a personal level. We, of course, are here to have some fun today and really dive into what's going on with blockchain. This is the first time we're doing this. This is our first backstage. This is the first digital keynote where we're diving into what's going on with the future of blockchain. This is the summit, and this is just an adjunct to the big event that we'll be doing later on this year in Dubai. And I'm excited to introduce who we're spending some time with. Ben, who is with us. Ben is based in the UK. Ben, where are you exactly?
I'm just outside Cambridge.
And when we say Cambridge,
very flat part of the world.
Oh, it's very flat, good weather because it's a good time right now. It's lovely and sunny. And then David, who is another one of our panelists, is in Sweden. David, tell us a little about where you're based.
I'm based on the west coast of Sweden, so kind of close to Cambridge. It's the second biggest city in Sweden. Göteborg, Gothenburg. Sorry, the time is Spain.
The time is in the afternoon, later on afternoon. And Tony, what time is it for you in China? What part of China are you in, Tony?
I'm in the city of Hangzhou, which is the headquarters and birthplace of Alibaba.
Oh, wow. Yeah, matter of fact, later on, we're going to give some statistics with the organization, the company that you're with. It's mind-blowing on what you're doing when it comes to the type of funds that you guys manage. What time is it for you?
It's 7:55 p.m.
7:55 p.m. I'm in Los Angeles, and right now it is 5 minutes to 5 a.m. So we all get to experience different time zones. Literally all the time zones are taking place here right now. So when we're using Zoom, Zoom's a great tool for all of you that are out there right now because you're going to be able to ask us questions. We'll be doing polls as time goes on, and we're going to dive deep into what's going on with blockchain. And I want you to understand, when we say blockchain, this is the whole blockchain space we're going after. We're not really micro niching in anything specific. We want to be more generalized on this summit. Later, we're going to go more specific. We'll dive deep into what's going on blockchain. Very, very important. So this is going to be a good one because I'm going to keep our panelists, I would say, at a level to where we could all understand what's happening. Because I know they could go very, very deep, and they could really take us to a level to where we know, we'll know their expertise. But I know many of you out there probably don't want to go that deep. But you can. Your questions will allow us to take you there, okay? So I want to make sure all of you will have that opportunity. Hey, David, you're working for the government in Sweden. Does the government take a conservative approach to blockchain, or are you more or less taking more of a liberal approach?
Liberal approach, I guess. I mean, we're looking at it from many different angles. I mean, in Sweden, the government structure is that where I work at the ministries, we do everything that has to do with laws and financing for the state, and also give assignments to the agencies, while the agencies are actually performing the work, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But we have a lot of agencies that has been doing some experiments. We also have a live running blockchain at the Agency for Public Employment. And of course, the central bank is also really investigating how to have a digital krona, krona. So liberal.
And Ben, what is your background to get you into this place? Where did you go to school right there near Cambridge?
I did, yeah. Once upon a time, many years ago, I was a quantum mechanic. That isn't particularly relevant to this space. But I guess I've been involved in the tech startup scene around Cambridge for longer than I'd care to disclose in public, I think. And I think coming from our perspective at the United Nations, it's been something that's really on the radar in terms of coordination. I think it's the global aspect of blockchain that's really put it on people's radar to start experimenting and trying to understand. We're not great at moving fast. So it's really exciting to be involved in the scene that is.
What do you mean you're not great at moving fast?
It may be a surprise to discover that global bureaucracies are bureaucratic.
Got it. And that's why places like China are moving fast, and they might be breaking things along the way, but they're taking gigantic hurdles over everybody else. Isn't that correct, Tony?
Yes, I think so. I think we'll see a lot of new developments in finance and in blockchain these days in China.
Yeah. So we're going to be starting the summit in a few minutes. I'm going to ask all the panelists, can you guys do me a favor and make sure your WhatsApp is either turned off or you turn off the alerts, because we're hearing somebody being extremely popular and you do not need to show off with your WhatsApp telling you how popular you are. So change the sound on that. So please do that. We're going to be starting in a minute. This is an exciting time because this whole conference that'll be taking place later on this year in Dubai is all around the future of, when we say blockchain, it's really the internet. And we'll touch upon that, but understand that this is today's technology. This is such an important technology because it really allows us to know what's happening because of the trackability. And when we say trackability, well, you know that if you're in the blockchain space, which we're going to take some polls a little later on to find out what level you are in the blockchain, you realize that this is the next iteration of the internet. Call it Internet 4.0. I don't know, what do you call it, David? Do you think it's, because you know, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, 3.0, which by the way, Eric Schmidt from Google said, I invented Web 3.0, type it in. But is this the Internet 4.0? What do you think it is, David?
I think it's too early to say.
Really?
Yeah, internet. I mean, it took like 15 years, something like that, to be sure that it actually was a thing. So yeah, it's too early. I mean, there are a lot of promises still with blockchain, but we do see that it's really hard to get the implementation there. So
what would you say it is? Tony, if you look at the internet where it is today, where do you think blockchain is? Is it like Web 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, or is it just a brand new classification of what the internet is?
I think I agree with David that we're in very early stage of the blockchain world. If I can quote, I can't remember where this quote came from, but I think humans are always very optimistic about the near term and very pessimistic about the long term. In reality, it's almost always the other way around. You know, things take off very slowly, but have a profound impact long term that we don't see. So I think that's where we are at the moment.
Well, like I said, this is backstage. We're going to start in about a minute. And when we start, you'll meet our panelists a little deeper. I want to make sure you understand that everything on this Zoom call is accessible to you. We're going to be doing polls. If you have any questions, you'll be able to use the Q&A, or if you want to put it inside the chat, we have a whole team that's watching what's going on. This is your event, everyone out there. This is your event, meaning ask the questions. Use these experts as your resource to find out what's going on. And they're yours. So for the next hour, we'll be sharing time and diving deep on what's going on with blockchain as of today, because it's a very interesting time. COVID has definitely changed the playing field. So let's get going. Shall we start the countdown, and shall we dive in and begin this event? Let's start the countdown. Let's get going. You ready, everyone? Let's go.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in this world. Welcome to our first episode of the Future Blockchain Summit Digital Keynote. On behalf of Dubai World Trade Center, we're so excited that you've taken the time to come here and join us, and particularly to those who've joined the last session as well. Let me tell you a little bit about the new virtual initiative that we're launching. The virtual initiative is in addition to the summit that we're hosting later on this year. And we're launching this to make sure we're engaging our community during this time and providing information and access and content throughout the following months. The full initiative is going to include think tanks, webinars, and provide a lot of insightful dialogue to make sure that all of you can engage. So if you have any interesting or exciting ideas, please make sure you send them through to us at blockchain@dwtc.com. We wouldn't have been able to create the world's largest blockchain festival without support from all of you, the community. So thank you very much for being part of it. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. The chat function is live. Please use it to chat with us and with all of the other attendees. But if you have any content related questions, please make sure you put it in the Q&A section. Feel free to upvote any great questions that you want answered throughout the session, so we make sure that the panelists are able to address these right away. Throughout the session, we're going to have polls. It's an extremely interactive session. You'll see our panel here today is composed of people from all around the world. It's been an absolute pleasure the last few weeks working with them to build this exciting program for you. So interact with the polls as quickly as possible, because we switch them off within 20 minutes and give you the statistics. We'll keep you updated on the summit that we know you love, and we'll make sure to involve you in the development as we're launching it later on this year. And of course, during this unique and special time, we thank the frontline workers for all of their work that they've done in helping to protect us. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our host extraordinaire, Ken Rutkowski.
Extraordinary. Hi, I'm Ken Rutkowski. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and I'll be the host for this next about an hour as we dive into what's going on in the blockchain space. I want to make sure you all know this is a very exciting time, because this whole 2020 digital keynote series is being brought to you here digitally, but the big event, which we'll be doing in Dubai, will be happening later on this year. This whole COVID thing has changed the landscape of where things are going. So as we look at what happens in the blockchain space, it has, in my mind, has hyperspeed. We're going at a different level. We need to get this initiative going. We need to see blockchain being accepted and utilized around the planet. And we'll go into this. I'll introduce the panelists a little later on. But I want to make sure you understand that Dubai is taking a very, very assertive lead to making sure that blockchain is used and accepted. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who's going to welcome us all in here, Her Excellency Dr. Aisha bin Bashir, the Director General of Smart Dubai.
Thank you, Ken. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the attendees who have joined us today, and welcome to the Future Blockchain Summit Virtual 2020. We launched the 2020 Virtual Summit as the world grapples with ongoing widespread unprecedented changes, restrictions, and precautionary measures to curb the spread of the COVID-19, let alone its ongoing impact on all aspects of life. This brought to my mind His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, quote, "A whole new world is waiting for us, and this new world needs new tools and new priorities. Our national priorities need to be reviewed to cope with the post-COVID-19 world. Our financial and human resources need to be redirected to strengthen our medical, food, and economic security through new programs and projects. Preparing for the post-COVID-19 is preparing for a new future that no one predicted a few months ago." We are virtually convened here today not to discuss blockchain as a technology only, but I invite you to leverage this opportunity and platform to make blockchain and related bleeding technologies relevant in the times of novel coronavirus and the post-COVID-19 world, which His Highness described. We are without doubt witnessing global difficult and challenging times, but they are also a test of our strength and resilience as communities. This is an opportunity for us to use our innovation and progress to show that we can mitigate any circumstance and overcome any hardship. While technology made our virtual summit possible today, it should not be the only focus of our discussions, but we should reinvent its role from our community's healthcare and well-being point of view. Now, allow me to share with you how the beginning of 2020 was a milestone for our blockchain journey in Dubai. This year has been an important year for our blockchain ambitions, as we celebrated our achievements in successfully implementing the Dubai blockchain strategy. Currently, government and private sector entities in Dubai are either working or have already fully implemented 24 blockchain use cases across 8 industry sectors: finance, education, real estate, tourism, trade, health, transportation, and security. This is in addition to launching the Dubai blockchain policy and the first government-endorsed blockchain as a service platform. We also hosted the third meeting of the Dubai Future Council for Blockchain just 2 weeks ago, finalizing plans to work on our next 2 initiatives for the year: a report on Dubai's cryptocurrency positioning and a report on the future landscape of blockchain in Dubai. Furthermore, today, Dubai has become host to more than 100 blockchain companies. The Emirates blockchain market grew by 24% in 2018, exceeding the global average of 19%. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you once again for joining us today. We look at this as an opportunity to demonstrate how government's investment in technology is what is truly paying off today. To conclude, I wish you all success, progress, and above all, safety and good health. Thank you, and thank you, Ken.
Dr. Aisha, I want to make sure that I get a question before you go off. So of course, here in the States, we are starting to all work remotely from home. We're not going into the office. And I'm wondering, since a lot of this COVID thing has changed the way not just corporations work, but governments. So how has Smart Dubai and the government of Dubai been coping with this, with everyone working remotely? And how have you ensured an uninterrupted and seamless process in Dubai?
We are blessed that the digital transformation journey started 20 years ago, and we have a full-fledged infrastructure that allowed us to move from a conventional way of working to working from distance in just like a couple of days. 100% of our government is now working from distance, using many tools like Microsoft Teams, WebEx, and the rest to help us into conversation and do all these virtual meetings, while we have our also many programs, or let me say platforms, that allow us to continue our businesses as usual, and the internal transaction like the ERP solution for the government, many applications, as Dubai now provide 116 government services to the people, fully digital, without the need to go to any counters.
Honestly, do you like working back at home? Do you like not having to go into the office?
Actually, Ken, today I received a survey from our employees, 280 employees, asking them, how do you want to work after post-COVID-19? 83% of them, they said they like to work from home. And one of the questions was, I will share with you the results. If giving the chance, how many days would you like to work from home per week? 60% answered that they want to work 3 days from home. The last question was, from a productivity perspective rate, working from home compared to working from the office, the average score was 9 out of 10. And this is incredible.
It is incredible, but it also shows that people might be more productive being at home than coming to the office.
Absolutely.
Dr. Aisha, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you for introducing us.
Thank you.
So as I said, this is our initiative to make sure we're always connecting you to what's going on in the blockchain space. I want to get you excited about polls. We've put a lot of polls together, and these polls are there to get a sense of what's going on with you, where you're at when it comes to from blockchain to different segments inside the industry. So I want to go to the first poll. I want to get us all ready. And this is, where are you based? Where are you located? So a poll's going to pop up on the screen. Please vote and let us know. Let's do the very first poll. And our first player goes. Let's see, where are you from? Do you see the poll? Start clicking on that. As we could see, we got the Middle East, we got India, Europe. I love seeing all this pop up. On the registration side, by the way, 88 different countries around the world registered for this event. 60% were within the GCC, 40% globally. And as we could see right now, as it's popping up, it certainly shows that. India, UK, United States, Pakistan, Canada, South Korea, all over the world. So make sure you get in that poll, get a sense of what's going on. Without a doubt, the results are in. The majority of you all out there are in the Middle East. So welcome from around the world. Thank you so much. I want to give you kind of a sense of what's going on when it comes to just the world, the planet right now. I want to share something with you. Let me bring this up right here. So I put a few slides together. So McKinsey does a very interesting report. They went out and surveyed about 5,000 people in different parts of the world. And what's fascinating about it is they asked the question, how will life be different after COVID-19? How do they see a difference in life? And if you notice, this is broken down into two different groups. It's broken down between optimistic and pessimistic. And it's broken down to if you're going to spend more or spend less. The very top is optimistic, the lower is pessimistic or less optimistic. And as we go through this, United States is on the one side, hey, we're going to plan to spend less when we come back. We're going to spend less. Canada is on the far side. They're going to spend the less, being 40% less than they were spending before pre-COVID. Japan, they're on the pessimistic, less optimistic side, but they seem to say, hey, we're closest to where we were before all this happened. Sweden, we see what happens in Sweden. One of our panelists is from Sweden. Italy will probably one of the biggest breakouts of COVID in Europe. And here's the rest of I'm going to spend less when we come back. Now, this is where it gets fascinating. Look at who's going to be spending more. Portugal is saying, hey, we're going to be spending a little more as we come back. Brazil, Nigeria. This was interesting. Look at where Nigeria is. Nigeria is high on the optimistic side and on the spending more side. And then India is at the very, very top. Indonesia fascinates me. I think there might be a sea change going towards Indonesia when it comes to manufacturing, where some companies are saying we don't want to be in China. They might be moving to Indonesia, and China is on top. Another question was asked is, where are you going to be spending money when you get back? Look at the first one. Groceries. Groceries is going to be the largest category amongst the larger countries that were surveyed. And also in this area right here was more around household supplies. And the other category that was massive was home entertainment. Think about that. Netflix. People are at home binging content or playing video games. One more thing I want to show you. Every year, there's a community that comes out and looks at what we do in an internet minute. This was last year's number. It's pretty fascinating. Look at everybody doing something from Facebook, Google, Netflix. The new numbers are coming out for 2020, and we can see how they've changed. Let me give you an idea. Let me put them side by side. So here's 2017, 2018, 2019, and of course, this year, 2020. And I want to look at something very specific. I want to look at Netflix. You can see Netflix on each one of these sides, and this is where it gets fascinating. Look at from 2018 to 2019. Look at this gigantic jump of what happened with Netflix. Well, why? Because Netflix went global with their content between 2018 and 2019. But let's look at Netflix specifically. Netflix started in 1997. They had 925 titles. They were worth $30 million in 1999. And get this, they were offered to be acquired in 1999 for $50 million by Blockbuster, which is not around anymore. Their current competition is this. And the company, as of this morning, was worth $191 billion. Pretty mind-blowing. Look at this. These are all the largest companies in the world. Look what their market value is as of this morning. It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? Look at that. Microsoft is in the lead, $1.4 trillion, then Apple, then Amazon. Without a doubt, let's all face it, other than Berkshire Hathaway, it is a digital world. It's a digital space. So if we look at this whole digital world, look at Netflix versus Disney. Again, 1997 is when Netflix was created. Disney, 1929. And then look at $191 billion. Disney's current market value is $197 billion. It's only $6 billion off. When you think of Disney, you think of what? Disney World, Disney properties, it's pretty massive. And then you think about Disney movies, and then also Disney IP, intellectual property, a lot of licensing going on there. When you think of Netflix, what do you think of? Servers and content. That's it. It's amazing, this digital space. This is where it gets mind-blowing. There's 200,000 employees in Disney. Netflix has 7,700. And if you can look at what they get out of each employee, an average of $290,000 out of Disney employees, Netflix is getting $2.8 million. It, without a doubt, is a digital world. And that's why blockchain is so important. So let's now jump into our panelists and let's dive into everything that's going on with blockchain. And what I want to do is I want to first introduce each one of them. Ben, I want to go to Ben, who's sitting over in the UK. Hey, Ben, you have a huge title. Make it easy for us. What are you working on?
So we support United Nations Environment Programme and the United Nations as a whole to understand kind of the state of nature and what the main impacts on it are. And I guess from a blockchain perspective, my real interest is in trade. We do an awful lot of work on trade in endangered species with CITES, that's legal wildlife trade, and also sustainable land use. And that's one of the biggest drivers of environmental change at the minute, is how we use our land for agriculture.
You have a few slides you want to show us real quick, Ben?
Yeah, I'll talk over. So that's our office that I haven't seen for a while, and I possibly won't see again. But because I say we're in the fens and it's pretty flat, the only nice thing to look at here is the skies. So I think that captures our outlet pretty well. I think this one's really useful. This comes from some work from colleagues of mine in York, and it's looking at blockchain in supply chains and thinking about the different kinds of transparency involved. That we all know blockchain is really powerful in terms of opening up information, but actually it all focuses on just a couple of areas that we're looking at, sort of traceability and transaction transparency. But the bit I'm really interested in is around those impacts. Does it make any difference on the ground? And I think something I'd like to explore is how we connect that physical reality to the digital ledger. Possibly the other interesting thing about this is that they're all prototypes. When we went around and tried to survey who was working in a supply chain environment, the number of live projects sustainably running over a long period of time was effectively zero. And I think that's another really interesting space where blockchain is at the minute, that we're great at churning out prototypes, ideas of projects, but when do they become products that people will pay for and have that longevity? Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. By the way, we're looking at comments. Please make sure utilize the chat window. I just want to give you some good news, Ben. People are asking about that mustache. Is it real or is that just a prop?
No, it's genuinely real. I grew a full beard for COVID and I've been slowly getting rid of it.
All right, let's go to Tony. Let's go to Tony. Tony, same thing with you. You do not have a pre-COVID beard or mustache. It looks good. Love to understand what you're working on. First, when I say $150 billion, that's what you have under management, I believe. It's massive. It's a massive, massive number. Tell us what you're working on, Tony.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. This is Tony Sun, dialing in from Hangzhou, China. I'm working at Ant Financial at the moment with our Ant blockchain products and solutions team. Ant Financial, I'll say a few words about Ant Financial. It is one of the largest fintech companies in the world. You probably have heard of the payment product called Alipay. It pretty much pioneered the mobile payments revolution in China and in Asia. And Ant has since been focusing on developing technologies to change how finance is done, and now into other fields as well. So you can see on the screen that we focus on 5 different categories of technologies, and blockchain is the first of them. And we do see that blockchain can be applied in the finance world. That's the world that Ant Financial comes from. But we do see the application of blockchain in other spaces as well. And then you can see the pyramid. So all these five technologies will eventually, support the inclusive finance and sustainability, and eventually that will lead to digital finance and more broadly a digital world like Ken just presented.
Thanks a lot, Tony. I want to make sure that, again, we're working on some great polls. I want to throw up another poll for everyone. I want to understand what you're doing in oh, we already did it. Oh, there we go. I didn't even know the other poll went up. No, it hasn't. Let's do this. Which sector are you working within? Let's pop up that second poll and let's get that going. I want to know where you're at when it comes to the work sector. So are you in communications? Are you real estate, healthcare, retail? Transportation, finance? Let's just get a sense of the audience that's out there. We have a huge audience from around the world, which is super exciting to see. So please take advantage of that poll. Like to get a result. So right now, it looks like government and public services are in the lead. That's a big number right there. So 27% of you are in that space, and about 13% are in communications and media. So at least we have a sample size of what you're doing. Remember, again, we're going to be doing polls throughout this whole Q&A process. Let's go over to David. David, who's in Sweden. David, tell us about what you're working on. Let's bring up David's slides.
Sure. So my name is David Somalainen. I work for the Swedish Ministry of Infrastructure. I'm a lawyer. That's my background. But I've been working with blockchain in some different capacities. So I'm an expert in an EU blockchain expert group and also at the OECD. I was part of which got quite famous, the Swedish land registry process, where we looked at having a blockchain for enhancing the real estate transaction process. That's on the slide there. Generally, my work is looking at laws when it concerns blockchain, but also how we can make some governance decisions when it comes to blockchain as far as Swedish government goes. Also helping the agencies, giving them assignments and supporting with budget and also negotiations in the EU, of course.
Thank you very much, David. And by the way, David, I would love to see Ben's mustache on you. Just saying, maybe it would look good.
Yeah,
all right. If we can, I'd like to see the poll results from both polls. Here we go. So you can see the government and public sector, that's in the lead. So everyone that's here, we have a large chunk that's in public services and government. That's great. Again, we'll be doing polls throughout that. You want to throw, let's do another poll real quick. Let's do our third poll, which will be, by the way, I'm on the fly with all this stuff. And that is, has your business implemented blockchain? Have you implemented it in your business? And that's what our first question to our panelists is. And that is, I want to go back because I'm the oldest one here. I just celebrated my 54th birthday a couple of days ago. And so I'm old. And being old, I got to do a lot when the internet just came out. In 1996, I did something called Internet World in Santa Clara, California. And Mark Cuban was one of my assistants. Think about that. The billionaire Mark Cuban was working for me. And I remember that Internet World had everything from communication to medicine to what they called micropayments. Back then, it wasn't even called e-commerce. But Internet World was everything. And because it was everything, it was hard to really understand what was going on because nothing was segmented. So let's talk about this as we're moving forward. And I want to go to Ben real quick. How would you describe blockchain? And I hate to take something that should be so mundane and easy, but the internet was so easy to explain, but it really wasn't. How would you explain blockchain?
Are we talking about where it is at the minute? I think it's really
explain it to me. Pretend I'm your dad, which I'm probably the age of your father. How would you explain blockchain to me?
I'm not sure my dad even understands what a database is, let alone a distributed one. So I think at the minute it is effectively a way of generating consensus, which is the key thing we keep talking about. But it's totally up in the air as to what consensus we're doing. So in terms of when we talk about currency, it's getting an agreement on who owns what, who's given what to whom. Where I'm interested in looking at the supply chain and trade flows, it's a question of being able to
Ben. If I was your father, you would have just lost me. Tony, please pretend you are going to explain blockchain to me. How would you explain it?
Because I come from a consortium world with enterprise applications blockchain. So what I would say is it's a new way for companies or organizations to work together, whether it's sharing data or collaborating with data. And you can do a lot of things with that shared data and new way of collaboration. One of them is to provide finance. For example, you can use the data being circulated to provide finance with more trust.
Tony, would your dad understand that?
I hope so.
David, I'm going to go to you. Make it easy. Come on, keep it simple. KISS principle.
Yeah, so normally an organization would have a centralized database, which means they gather all the information and say this is the correct information. A blockchain would be the opposite to that. So there are many number of organizations that share the same information at the same time, and thereby they can all agree that this is the correct information. This also makes it possible to create what we can call uniqueness in a digital world. So you can have a unique dollar, for example, which represent like the physical world.
David, no, come on, your dad would not have understood it. Isn't it just simple? It's a global database that you can't change, you can only add to, and it's completely, in most cases, transparent to everybody. I mean, it's really, it's a database, guys. We're looking at a global database that, wait, you're giving me a look, Ben.
Yeah, my dad still doesn't know what a database is.
Oh.
But I think one of the key pieces is the lack of the teacher when I explain it to kids or try and explain to my children. When you talk about the agreement, it is that lack of somebody controlling and centralizing it. It's the way for them to agree on some truth.
So, by the way, the last poll we just asked is, have you implemented blockchain? And 43% say no, but I'm investigating the possibilities. I think one of our biggest problems is we have not really created the message properly. So the message, email at one point in time, I'm not kidding, guys, in the 90s, again, since I'm old, was really hard to understand. People go, what are you talking about? And now email, everyone knows what that is, or instant messaging. Blockchain, where we're at right now, no one has come up with a simple way to make it so it's understandable. And that's probably one of our biggest issues, because everyone thinks it's cryptocurrency, and it's not. It's a component. And I'm just wondering, how do we get around that? How do we start really having better marketing? Go ahead, Ben. I see you're ready. You're leaning in. You have a solution. What is it?
No. I mean, I think the difficulty is the applications, that the maths is fantastic. As an ex-mathematician, I love the maths of blockchain. I think it's a really elegant, powerful solution. But I'm in a minority of one, by the looks of the other faces in this panel. But the interest is the application. And you've got to get the particular application. Email
of all the people that are using,
was I could chat to my friends at other universities. Got it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna challenge you on something real quick, and that is, I have not, and maybe you guys can tell us, maybe David, Tony, you've seen this, Ben, where has blockchain become revolutionary, not evolutionary? Because if you look at evolutionary, that's Windows 95, Windows 2000. I mean, there's a succession. Where revolutionary was the iPhone. Where do we see blockchain being revolutionary? That's what I want to know. Tony, have you seen revolutionary, not evolutionary?
The cryptocurrencies are pretty interesting, but from the enterprise world, the consortium world, I think there's one thing that we did was pretty good. I'm not sure if it's revolutionary, is that we've built this cross-border payment corridor. That's real time. It's completely free, and it only takes 3 seconds for the fund to arrive. I mean, it's still old money arriving, and in that part is not revolutionary, but being real time and free, I think that does rock the traditional financial world a little bit.
Okay. Another poll is this: how are you using blockchain in your organization? So many of you are investigating it, but how many of you are? How are you implementing it? So let's launch that poll and let's get a sample of this. We have a lot of questions that are popping up, and I could see this in the chat. Please doing this. Please continue doing it. People are saying what's revolutionary is logistics, is transparency and trust. I still think, everyone, that this is evolutionary, not revolutionary. And I really want to challenge that, because I think right now in the world, we're looking for revolutionary. We're looking for the next iPhone. We're looking at something to back, because the internet hasn't had anything that's revolutionary in a long time. I would say Slack may have been revolutionary. I would say instant messaging was revolutionary, not just evolutionary. So I'm waiting for that, because I think that's where more adoption is going to take place. Our poll numbers are coming out right now, if you want to share those. and it shows that about 30% say we are looking and implementing blockchain. Again, people are kind of staying passive. They're sitting in the back waiting to jump in. David, give me a reason why I need the blockchain right now. Give me a reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you do. I mean, it depends really. And I think, I mean, one of your questions here is to explain it. I mean, do I need to understand how internet works to use email? I pretty much don't. Email is a service based on like an foundational infrastructure. And I think the blockchain can serve that purpose in many ways. For instance, I don't need to know that the supply chain was that I can view the supply chain in real time as a normal person. I just need to know that I can trust the information that comes out of it. So if people, organizations, governments say that this is a good way to ensure information, then I guess that's something in there. But I think it's too early to say really if we're gonna find something revolutionary here.
But as a fellow oldie, I can
real
say
quick,
that
John
with
Hancock
you,
is saying,
to
David,
understand.
real quick, Ben, I'm looking at the chat. Let's see, it was, oh man, the names are flying through. It says, Ben is speaking the truth. Good job on that. I'm sorry about that. I mean, David speaking the truth. Ben, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that I'm old enough to remember that back in the day, you did have to know how email worked. And I think that's where we are with blockchain. I used to set up and run email servers for myself, for companies, for organizations, every new project. That was part of the startup.
Okay. Let's do this. I want to first tell everyone that we've had over 1,000 attendees on this. It's very exciting to see these numbers. I also want to remind everyone that this digital series, what we're doing is adjunct to the big event that we'll be doing before the end of the year. So this is just a component of the Future Blockchain Summit that's taking place in Dubai later on this year. If you have a question, please put it inside the Q&A, which is on the bottom. And I'm going to read different questions that are out there. Here's one. Do we have any use cases for blockchain on the cloud in the financial industry? I'm going to go to Tony. Tony, in finance, tell me about where you see use cases when it comes to blockchain in the financial space.
Yes, Ken. So with financial, we do have a few use cases with finance. We'll briefly mention a couple. One is we do have a supply chain finance application that we built this platform, and large enterprises can put their supply chain onto our blockchain, and in that way, all their suppliers will have a record on the blockchain of what they have supplied to the larger enterprise. And because many of the suppliers are in fact small, medium-sized enterprises, it's hard for them to get finance. And now with the blockchain and this receivable in hand, and the banks can come onto this platform and see this registered on blockchain receivable they have in the hand and say, okay, it's real. And they will know who owes who, how much and what and when. And then the banks can make a financing decision based on this. So that's one. Another one is we're doing a cross-border trade finance platform that will bring banks from China and banks from overseas onto the platform, and we're going to have the buyer and the seller trading on the platform, and with all the logistics, the purchase order, the customs data on this platform to support, again, the bank's financing decisions. And if I can briefly mention the last one, we built this invoice management with the hospitals and the insurance companies. So when the patients pay for hospital services, the hospital will issue an invoice on the blockchain to the consumer. And with one click, the consumer can post that to the insurance company for claims processing. And because it's on the blockchain, it's unique and traceable. And claim decisions will be made on that.
Let's do another poll, benefits of blockchain. Let's launch that poll. I want to go to Dave. It's very simple, benefits of blockchain. And I apologize everyone out there, if you're very, very deep in this space and you get it, and these are very basic questions, maybe for you, but I'm going to, again, specify that it isn't for the masses. And this is where the adoption point has not jumped as fast as we hoped, but this is where I think these polls help out too. David, the benefit.
I mean, it depends really on what you're doing. If we take the land registry example where I worked, we saw that some of the benefits were it's more resilient than other structures. It gives more transparency and it lowers some transaction costs. So maybe the total process of a real estate purchase from the buying and selling to the registration would be like 1% cheaper for society. But if you scale that, that's a lot of money. But that's the evolutionary part of it, right?
It's interesting. We're looking at our polls right now, and what people are saying, 39% are saying security, trust, and risk reduction is what they're saying. That's the number one, and then improving efficiency and saving time. So let me go now probably to the hardest of all these questions, and I think I've identified it, and I think you have too, and that is, why has the industry failed at marketing blockchain, specifically the message? Why has the industry failed? And I'm going to ask Mr. Mustache, Ben, what has happened here? Is it because it's all techies and no marketing people that are in the industry?
There's a degree of that. I think it is a technical solution. I think to some extent it has succeeded in the sense that everybody knows they need to put blockchain in the title of their talks or in their presentations or in their strategy. Whenever you see a country bringing out a digital strategy, it has to have a blockchain component in it. Where it has struggled is taking these promising prototypes and actually turning them into something that's usable every day and has that really clear value proposition. And it only takes a couple of winners on that to catalyze everything else. I think great demos only take you so far.
Great demos do take you so far, right? Every one of us are either coming out of the COVID time or we're already out of it. And I'm wondering, Tony, has any of your initiative changed in the blockchain space because of COVID-19?
Overall, all business development efforts have been paused for the past few months, although it's already started in April. But besides that, I see lots of new demand actually looking for blockchain. One thing I want to mention is the Chinese government did announce some new plans. This so-called new infrastructure with 5G, blockchain, AI, and cloud, and all that. So the government is encouraging all these industries to grow, partially because of COVID-19. So we do see a gentle push from the government on that.
Ben, is there an alternative to blockchain?
Yeah, it's what we're doing at the minute. This is one of the things people always forget when they talk about who your competitors are. People are solving the problem you're trying to solve somehow. And at the minute, that's with centralized databases. That's the competition. That is the alternative.
That's it, centralized databases. And I'm wondering, David, as we watch this thing called quantum supremacy, we know that Google, IBM has a quantum simulator that's being used by Microsoft and Google because they claim that they've reached quantum supremacy. Should we worry about anything in the blockchain space being cracked by quantum?
Yeah, probably Ben is the right person here, but as far as I can understand it, everything is going to be cracked by quantum in time. So probably, yeah, but then again, we probably could upgrade the defense mechanisms also. Just want to back a bit to a previous question that you said, and you said that the blockchain has kind of failed, or that the promise has failed.
Marketing has failed.
Marketing, yeah, maybe marketing, but not so much. I think 2 years ago, I was kind of negative on the outlook because I saw a lot of demos and no one's doing anything. But now I think that there are a lot of things happening. In the EU, we have the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, which is running now. So most countries has a node, so it works. It's still in a test environment, but it works. The Swedish Central Bank has a blockchain pilot now doing the e-krona. So it's there, but it's happening under the hood, and I think that's one part of blockchain. It's hard to understand for most people, and I don't think when we're going to see the applications, we're not going to think of them as a blockchain application.
I like how you said Ben's the one who could answer it, but you certainly did. Ben, do you agree with what David said?
Yeah, I do to some extent. It's, as we know with securing blockchains, it's a question of resources in most cases. And I think the quantum supremacy will tip the balance of those resources, but there's nothing to say that by increasing the size of your keys, the different proof of works, that you can't keep up to date with it in some sense. And I did a PhD in quantum computing 20 years ago and have been expecting it to be just around the corner every year since. So maybe next year.
Well, maybe next year. I mean, I don't think there's even a good operating system yet for on quantum side. I'm going to ask this question to Tony, but I'm also going to do a poll at the same time. What do you think the most significant use case for blockchain will be within the next 5 years? So let's launch poll number 7. As we launch that, can you help us out with that, Tony? Where do you, over the next 5 years, kind of project what will be the next big use cases?
I think I will mention a few that I think will be pretty big in the next 5 years. I think finance will be definitely one, and specifically supply chain and trade finance, because there are many parties involved in the process, and there's a lack of trust and transparency, and the processes of supply chain finance and trade finance are very still paper-based and manual. Unlike many other aspects of finance have been digitized. So I think that's one. And also in terms of public service, central bank digital currency, I do think that will be one of the biggest for the next few years. I think you've heard that China has plans, and many other countries do have plans around that. And I guess the last thing I will mention is in terms of retail or say supply chain. It's the traceability of things with the combination of IoT and other sorts of technologies combined. I think that will revolutionize the retail world, and Alibaba is certainly interested in that. Oh, and last thing is the work with data. How organizations collaborate with data will be revolutionized in the next few years as well, because many regulations prohibit organizations share data, and we do see new ways that blockchain will change that.
You looked at our poll, I guess, because it looks like the audience says the same thing. It came out to be a tie at 23%, and that is trade and cross-border transactions and payments, supply chain transparency, and digital currency. Tony, did you buy any Bitcoin?
I used to have some Bitcoin, yes.
You used to have some Bitcoin. Okay, David, you got some Bitcoin? No? Ben, with that mustache, you must have tons of it. I'm right? Come on, Ben. You got some Bitcoin?
No.
No. All right. You should. The halving's happening tomorrow. You should be ready to go on that. So, guys, as we look at where we're at today, right now, if we move forward, who's going to take the bigger initiative to really implement blockchain? Will it be the corporate space, or it will be the government space? Ben, what do you think?
I think probably the corporate space, to be honest. I think in terms of, certainly in my piece, in terms of the supply chain, we're seeing it at the minute in sort of high value commodities, and the value through the whole supply chain as a multinational piece is more suited in a lot of ways to companies rather than governments.
And I'm looking at the chat, people are saying it should be government, it should be government. And David, you're a government entity. What do you think? Is it going to be government that's going to really accelerate the implementation, or is it going to be corporate?
I think it's going to be both. That's one thing with blockchain. I mean, it helps when you're more involved. And as far as in what I can see in Europe, we do see that there's a great involvement between private and public. So all the good initiatives that has actually become anything, it comes from private and public corporations.
You feel the same thing, Tony? Is it going to be government or private?
I think in China, the government will be one of the largest buyers of blockchain solutions.
Some questions that are popping up. Nasir says one of the main issues is regulators being wary of blockchain in general. What do you think about that, and how can we overcome that? So it's more of being awkward or uncomfortable about it. Thank you, Nasir. What do you think, Ben?
I think David should answer this. Like I got the.
Yeah, but David answered it. Even though he said you should answer it. David, what do you think?
They need to learn the maths, like they need to learn the health.
Yeah, we can get people like Ben to tell us the math, and then we write the laws, right? So I think a lot of governments now have blockchain strategies. They are aware of it, the technique, and what can be done with it. It's just a matter of time.
Let's do another quick poll, and that is, since we're talking about there will be a transformation over the next 5 years, what sector do you think will be the biggest user of blockchain in the next 5 years? 5 years is far out, but let's use this as a good poll to see what you think. Let's launch that poll and get an idea where we're at, okay? And hey, by the way, everyone that's sitting here wondering what we're doing this as often as possible, where we're sitting down with you virtually and utilizing Zoom to bring in the panelists and the people that will be participating in our in-person event before the end of the year in Dubai. Okay, so don't think this is just virtual. This is an adjunct. This is in addition to the giant, huge event, which is awesome to go to. It's one of my favorite in the whole world that we'll be doing before the end of the year. Dr. Marwan's going to join us a little later on, and we'll be talking about the halving, which is taking place. I think it's tomorrow, so you can understand a little later on, so don't go away on that. Our poll numbers are out. I'm comfortable to say what sector, and it looks like it's almost a near tie between government, public sector, and finance. I believe in the finance side a lot. Matter of fact, I like to see it in finance. Tony, since that's all you do is really work in finance, $150 billion, that's what you're working under. How much of your company has moved into blockchain? Have you implemented across the board, or are you just doing small segments of the company in blockchain?
Thanks, Ken. At Financial, we developed this blockchain platform, and we offer this to our enterprise clients. So that's one part of the business. And the other part of the internet finance business, payments, wealth management, insurance, credit, and all that. Those are not on the blockchain yet. And we don't, because one of the reasons is that we don't see blockchain supporting the large volume of transaction that Alipay has to process every day or every second for that matter. That's one reason. And the other reason is it's a really collaborative effort to use blockchain. And now everything we have, not only at our organization, but all across the board in finance, is centralized systems, and we need a way to figure out how to change things.
What I'd like to do is this, guys. Each one of you, I want to give you like 30 seconds. I want to peek into the future. And by the way, thank you guys for being part of this. It's really, really important for us to have this constant dialogue. I want you to project 1 year in the future, just 1 year, not far, and tell me, what do you see in 30 seconds where blockchain will be affecting our lives, our businesses, or our governments? Project yourself 1 year in the future. Let me go with David first.
Okay, so in 1 year, I think the European blockchain service infrastructure will be running even more, and that will help transactions within Europe. So it will ensure a lot of the data that we do see cross-border. Today, we are all centralized in our country, so that will be something.
Awesome. Tony, 1 year in the future.
From our perspective, in the future, 3 industries will be very different. One is finance. We do see a lot of different applications in that. The other one is government, public services. Like Dubai, we think China will be moving towards that direction. The third is retail, and that will change a lot of how marketing is done, how traceability is done.
And of course, mustache Ben, what do you got?
Yeah, I think on from a supply chain traceability and picking up on Tony's comments on retail, I think trying to see one of these current prototypes that actually makes it into something that my dad has heard of would be a decent goal over the first year. And I think from my perspective, it's tying the digital to the physical, so that when somebody claims they've produced something and records it on a ledger, I can trust that.
I think you said the first and most important, that is, let's get it so our parents, or we call it KIDMA, kid and grandma proof, where they both understand what blockchain is. I want to thank Ben, Tony, and David for being part of this panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. Thank you very much. Dr. Marwan, are you joining us? Yes, you are. The halving is happening. First, do you have any crypto? Do you have any Bitcoin?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
I was nicknamed Satoshi for a while. I don't know if I still have that nickname.
I got it at $32. I had my own rigs back then at $32, and I had a lot of it. So talk to us, what exactly is the halving and what's going on?
So you mentioned that the halving will actually happen in tomorrow, but actually I just shared the link to the countdown. It's actually in 5 hours or so. Of course, with Bitcoin, from the beginning of Bitcoin, so even before you started mining them in 2014, when the price was around $30, the price was actually much less than that before. So, and they used to issue, by design, every 10 minutes or so, there are 50 Bitcoins basically released into the world or added to the supply of Bitcoin. That actually, by design as well, lasts for 4 years or so, or 210,000 blocks. So every block is around 10 minutes on average. So every person who participates in mining or digs for Bitcoin basically gets rewarded that block reward, which is right now is around 12.5. So if you see the chart, that I don't know if everyone can see the chart. When we started, it was 50 Bitcoins. And then after 4 years, that was cut in half to 25. 4 years after that, it was cut again in half to 12.5. And tonight, if you are anywhere in the world in around 5 hours or so, that reward will be cut down from 25 to only 12.5. Actually, that's already 12.5 right now. It will be cut down by half again to 6.25. So imagine if you are a miner and you were receiving until today, until 5 hours, you'll still be receiving 12.5 Bitcoins, but starting from 6 hours or so from now, you will be getting only half of that. What does that mean? So for a miner, that means his reward and physical Bitcoins that he will be getting will be cut in half. But for the whole supply, that will mean that the supply, that will be cut down in half as well. So the effect of that is usually, as we see in the chart, historically is not an immediate surge, but an eventual surge. And even though the chart looks like a small chart, but this is actually a logarithmic chart. And not only that, it is actually a chart over a period of 12 years or more. So so it is going to, so 4 plus 4 plus 4, that's 12 years, and we are on the edge of that 13th year in the blockchain. So what does that mean to the normal person? It means that you will be getting less Bitcoin minted, which means the value of the existing Bitcoins, anybody who's holding Bitcoin, is going to increase automatically, because the less supply, that means the more scarce it is, and the more scarce it is means that you will be getting this increase in value of the circulating supply. Of course, there
Dr.
are...
Marwan, real quick.
Yes.
Dr. Marwan,
Yes.
question real quick.
Yes.
We have a theoretical bottom price on what it costs to mine at Bitcoin. We kind of saw this over the last couple of months. It's about $5,000. We
Yes.
know once it dips, because we look at energy and what it takes to actually mine, we saw once it dipped below the $5,000 mark, miners actually started buying Bitcoin because it was cheaper to buy it than actually mine it.
Yeah,
Because
so-
that 5,000, so how does that change moving forward?
So that changes because look, there's no such thing as a true market, and it is always based on the on fundamentals. In the blockchain, there's no fundamentals other than things like scarcity. So the perceived value of that scarcity is not only how much it is worth to mine, but also how much utility it has and what is the network effects. There's a lot of other aspects that govern the price, but end of the day, it is what people feel the Bitcoin is worth, and that's how they trade it.
But you understand what I'm saying? But seeing miners buy it, that was a pure indicator
I'm one of them,
that they,
actually.
in their mind.
So
You're one of them. So did you start buying it below 5,000?
Yes, so I started buying, of course, below 5,000, and I also keep buying Bitcoin on, and I do what is called dollar cost averaging, which means that you buy Bitcoin at a certain period of times, once a month or so, to just create this continuous inflow of funds, knowing that the Bitcoin supply is automatically cut every 4 years with the Bitcoin halving event that we're having tonight. And knowing that the Bitcoins that I keep buying at whatever price point I buy them at will increase over time because of the scarcity and because of the community around Bitcoin and number of wallets created and the number of uses or transactions per block is increasing actually over time. And we see this steady growth for Bitcoin, which only means that the value, and it was designed for the value to go up over time. It was designed as a saving mechanism for anyone who holds the crypto.
Well, this is an exciting time for you. It really is. These are those little celebrations where you get to figure out if your speculations are right. And that is, you'll see Bitcoin go up. Will you start selling Bitcoin when it hits a certain number in your mind? Do you have a certain exit number?
Yeah, I always have, and I teach classes, of course, in the Dubai Blockchain Center, which we're celebrating actually 2 years now of doing those classes. I always teach people how not to lose money, first of all, so you minimize your losses and also maximize your wins as well. And there are strategies for both the fundamentals when you invest in anything, but also technical analysis. And we teach both of those in the Dubai Blockchain Center.
Dr. Marwan, thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, and of course, how excited you are about the halving. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nisha, I'd like to bring you back on real quick. Can you join us? Hello, how'd it go? Do you like it? Did we do a good job? Will you approve what we did today?
My goodness, I don't think I have the right to approve. You guys this was fantastic. This is incredible. I just wanted to say thank you so much to David, Tony, Ben, Dr. Marwan, Dr. Aisha, and Ken. What a fantastic session and what a great kickoff to our virtual initiative. Such a pleasure to have all of you here. I also just want to give a quick shout out to our team who pivoted so quickly to make this work during this difficult time. Thank you to everyone. And
real quick, Nisha, before you go away, I just want to make sure if people have questions regarding moving forward, next events, how do they know what's going on? How do they make sure they're always getting the right information?
Sure. Okay. So the best way, by the way, I didn't introduce myself. You can see it on the Zoom screen, but I'm Nisha Ramsetti. I'm the director of the Future Blockchain Summit, and I work with the Dubai World Trade Center. So the latest information you can always find on the website. Follow us on Instagram at Future Blockchain Summit. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. Or you can just email us at blockchain@dwtc.com. You can subscribe to our newsletters. So this launch of this virtual initiative is just the first of very many. So this is kind of our big digital keynote opening, but the aim is every other week, every 2 weeks, we're going to be having something. And we're working with some of the panelists here who, by the way, are actually going to be live at our actual event. So this is just a taster. And we're working with some of the panelists to create think tanks, to create thought leadership pieces, to create startup challenges. So there's a lot coming. This is only the beginning. And yes, please keep engaged with us and subscribe on our website.
That's it. Everyone, thank you so much for spending time with us, and make sure you stay tuned to our next virtual summit, which we'll be doing. And again, make sure you keep your eyes peeled for the big event that we'll be doing before the end of the year. I'm Ken Rakowski. Thank you to everyone, and everyone have a great, I guess it's happening soon. Thank you, everyone.